All right, guys, what's going on? Welcome in. So Daniel Jeremiah, the NFL Network, just released his third mock draft of the offseason. Mel Kiper just dropped his too, and I'm going to be doing a video on that after this one. But let's take a look at it, right? Break down the picks leading up to the New York Jets. Obviously, it's spot number 7. With the first overall pick, he is the Tennessee Titans going with Miami quarterback Cam Ward. Now, one thing I'm really happy about is that it really feels like the NFL draft insiders are coming back to this pick. You know, early on, it just made so much sense. And then after the team hired Mike Borgonzi, it made even more sense. But there was this like pivot away where a lot of the insiders were, mocking Abdul Carter to the Tennessee Titans #1 overall. And granted, Carter's a great player. But for me, when I'm thinking about the Tennessee Titans right now and what they did in free agency, first things first, they gave a humongous contract to Dan Moore. Something that you feel like they didn't necessarily have to do. They had to upgrade the O-line, but did you have to give that much money to Dan Moore? What's kind of the catalyst there? What's the thinking behind that? If the plan was just to roll out Will Levis and go with maybe an Abdul Carter in round 1, why are we giving Dan Moore so much money? The other move that was kind of telling was giving a 1-year contract to veteran guard Kevin Zeitler. Why are you making that move unless you're going to be making a big splash at the quarterback position, right? So now with Dan Moore, you can take him and plug him at left tackle. I think Dan Moore's a good tackle. I don't think he's a top 5 tackle in football. But you figure out left tackle, you can move J.C. Latham over to right tackle, which was his original spot back in college coming out of Alabama. I love J.C. Latham. I think he's going to uptick that right tackle position in a big way. Going from the left to the right, you have Skoronski at left guard, solid piece. You have Cushenberry at center, solid piece. And now you're bringing in Zeitler at right guard. This, to me, is perfectly set up for a rookie quarterback to step in, or maybe you do want to throw Will Levis out there for a month or two and allow Cam Ward to develop. Where is Mike Borgonzi coming from? Kansas City, the team that drafted Pat Mahomes, the guy who was considered a little raw, but the guy who had that really high ceiling, but needed time on the bench. Someone who needs to spend an entire year working with an offensive coach where they're kind of building and structuring the offense around that player. Well, Callahan is in Tennessee. Callahan has worked with Joe Burrow. And although I do feel like Shedeur Sanders is a better systematic fit for what Callahan did for the Titans last year, I'm not going to just say, oh, well, Callahan is incapable of developing a system, creating a system around Cam Ward's skill set. So to me, all signs are pointing that the Tennessee Titans will go with Cam Ward, and I'm happy to see his name finally back at spot #1. Okay, so with the second overall pick here is the Cleveland Browns going with Abdul Carter, edge rusher from Penn State. I mean, when you're talking about trying to stop Joe Burrow, trying to stop Lamar Jackson in that AFC North division, like, you have to get after him. Specifically when I'm thinking about Lamar, because it's one thing to get in the backfield with Burrow, even though the ball comes out so quick. But with Lamar, his running abilities, you need players to hawk him down. You need to somehow contain Lamar Jackson. And Abdul Carter really helps in that area, right? It's the dream to have two dominant edge rushers. I mean, Jim Schwartz, like, you got to imagine, is going to be all over this. If, of course, Carter's the pick here. If you're a DC, you're like, again, that's the dream. Like, you're probably up at night thinking, man, like, what would my defense look like if I had two elite #1 edge rushers, two of the best in football? Now, I'm not calling Abdul Carter like a top 5 edge rusher in football immediately, but I do think he has so much potential to be an instant top 10 guy. I do think Carter sits in that range, especially if Myles Garrett's on the other side. So I really like this pick for the Cleveland Browns. I don't think that they can go wrong. I think they can go with Travis Hunter and help their quarterback out. We don't really know what the quarterback situation is looking like in Cleveland. So if you give Travis Hunter if you give a weapon like Hunter to a quarterback needy team, obviously it's going to benefit that position, and it also takes some of the pressure off of Jerry Jeudy as well. He's kind of, I feel like right now Judy's the only like real passing threat or real receiving threat within the offense. I think Hunter would make a lot of sense. And then also too, right, you're plugging Hunter in at corner. Hunter's the most explosive player in this draft. So, I think if the Browns want to go with either blue chip players, they're free to do that. And then personally, I know it might sound a little kind of weird, but I feel like Shedeur Sanders is still in play for the Cleveland Browns at spot number 2. I think a large part of that is because of the musical chairs that we've seen in free agency with the quarterback position, as well as the pressure on Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski to turn it around, right? They're obviously strapped with the Deshaun Watson contract, and Shedeur Sanders, great fit in the Stefanski offense. That's something that we've talked about a lot. Winning from the pocket. Sanders is the most accurate quarterback in the draft. He's the best decision maker in this draft. I do feel like it makes sense for Cleveland. And I get it. The talk is that Sanders could fall to. I mean, I was reading a mock draft the other day. They had Sanders falling out of round 1. But most mocks are kind of having Sanders go in like the mid to like early portion of the 20s now. We had the report about like the combine, and supposedly Sanders didn't get along with or didn't really jive well with a couple of quarterback coaches picking within the top 7 from Josina Anderson. But I don't know. If I had to give a prediction right now, I would say Aaron Rodgers winds up with the Steelers, Russell Wilson winds up with the New York Giants, and then maybe Jameis Winston comes back to Cleveland. But I just cannot see in like a win now, do or die type of year, Kevin Stefanski just rolling out Jameis Winston and Kenny Pickett for 17 games. And who knows, Pickett fits that system as well. I'm intrigued with that. I do feel like Pickett's now in a position where he can really, take steps to further his career. But in any case, yeah, Abdul Carter to the Cleveland Browns here. With the third pick, he has the Giants going with Shedeur Sanders, right? I know we were just talking about it, but, personally, I love Sanders' game. I do, right? When I think when you're talking about the quarterback position and you have an opportunity to draft, the best decision maker, the most accurate, the purest passer, and the guy that probably wins from the pocket the most, like that, for a quarterback needy team, that to me is a win. It's a win. Shedeur Sanders has handled pressure really, really well. He knows kind of what pressure looks like, being Deion's son and kind of having to be the guy so early on. You really feel like Shedeur has been groomed to become a quarterback, and I feel like right now, even though maybe I think Ward is a better fit for what Dable wants to do, the Giants aren't really in a position, like they've just screwed up at so many stops along the way. They are pretty much forced into figuring out the quarterback position this offseason, whether it's Russ, whether it's Rodgers, whether it's Sanders, whether it's trading up for spot number 2, spot number 1 for Ward. I just feel like the Giants have got to figure out the quarterback position. They cannot keep swinging and missing at every single turn. I mean, Joe Shane, Giants go Shedeur Sanders. I think this would be, in my opinion, a pretty solid pick. Okay, next up at pick number 4, he has the Pats going with Travis Hunter, the best player in the draft, in my opinion. Great pick. Great pick, right? I really like what the Patriots did this offseason. Milton Williams, Carlton Davis, even Spillane at linebacker, like Morgan Moses, right? Filling that need at right tackle. I like what the Patriots did, but I feel like the biggest need, the biggest question mark, or the biggest task that the Patriots, when you're thinking about it in a Wolf, a Vrabel, what's the number one thing we need to accomplish this offseason? Or I guess 2 things. Find a left tackle, whether it's short-term or long-term, and give Drake May a legitimate weapon that strikes fear defensive coordinators. And they haven't done either. I like what they've done. They have not done either of those 2 things. Travis Hunter checks one of those boxes. You can come back in early round 2 and grab a left tackle there. But Travis Hunter, too good to pass up here. Every time Travis Hunter steps on the field, he is the most electrifying and the most explosive. I mean, you can talk just rave about Travis Hunter in so many different areas. The conditioning, the way that he attacks the football, the ball hawking abilities, the instincts, making people miss, so quick with the football in his hands. Just such a dynamic player. I think Josh McDaniels would have a lot of fun just taking Travis Hunter and saying, okay, you know what, we're going to really figure out ways to find you the football. McDaniels obviously is not cut out to be a head coach. We all know that at this point, but he's still one of the smartest offensive minds in the NFL. I think having a guy like Travis Hunter, outside, slot, left side, right side, putting him in motion, deep down the field, reverses, screens. There's a lot of different ways that you can get Travis Hunter the football. You could probably line Travis Hunter up in the backfield as a running back and kick it out to him, right? If you want to do like a Hunter and a running back look out of the shotgun, to where you can't really bail on, running the football because you have that running back in the backfield. But I would not be surprised if there's a lot of cool, unique looks with Josh McDaniels and Travis Hunter here. So really like the pick. So next up with the Jags at pick 5, he has them going with linebacker / edge rusher Jalon Walker from Georgia. And to be honest, I think if the player is on the board, the Jaguars would go with Mason Graham here. I think Gladstone coming in from the LA Rams, they really would want to build out the trenches. And when I'm looking at the Jaguars roster right now, it's a team that made a lot of moves, a lot of departures, a lot of additions. I love Jalon Walker as a prospect, by the way. I think the perfect fit for him is the Carolina Panthers at spot number 8. Tampa Bay Bucks too, but I don't see him falling that far. Point is, I think with Jacksonville here, and you're looking at the defensive front, you have Allen off the edge. You have a guy in Trevon Walker, former number 1 overall pick. You have Eric Armstead on the roster. I think one more player that can kind of unlock everything is having a disruptive force in the inside, the interior of that D line. And although Jalon Walker is a great player, an explosive player, he jumps off the field, or jumps off the screen rather, I just don't know if this would be the best fit for me. So Jalon, would the Jaguars be better? Yes. But I do feel like, hey, maybe if the guy, now who knows, maybe Gladstone doesn't like the combine. I definitely did not like the combine from Mason Graham. So maybe he's in that boat as well. It's a deep class in DT. TJ Sanders, Tyleik Williams, Derek Harmon. Like, there's a lot of guys that the Jags can potentially scoop up in the early section of round 2. But, let's move on. Next up, pick 6, Ashton Jeanty, running back, Boise State. This really is starting to feel like the consensus, right? And it just it does truly make a lot of sense, right? First things first, they figured out the quarterback position with Geno Smith. You need to go get Geno Smith an actual weapon, right? They have Brock Bowers, great. I wonder if Michael Mayer gets traded, Jacoby Myers as well, but I'm also a little excited to see what Trey Tucker does, with Chip Kelly in this offense. But Ashton Jeanty is just on a whole, like, it's going to be Bowers and Jeanty, 2 high level offensive weapons that you can really run the offense through. Feed them the rock, give them the football, design packages, and really do a lot. Again, run your offense through these 2 individuals. We've seen Pete Carroll take a running back in the first round. We know that the Raiders are fully committed into winning now. Chip Kelly's offense, it starts with running the football. You can argue, okay, you can maybe go out and target a Quinshon Judkins, a Travion Henderson. Later on, right, a former running back that Chip has obviously worked and done well with at the collegiate level. But Ashton Jeanty, to me, he's on another tier compared to those guys. And I think if Chip Kelly, he's looking at Jeanty, he has the opportunity to draft him. Pete Carroll's on board. You're helping out Geno Smith. The team really, really needs a running back. I felt like Zamir White he was an interesting case study for me. I felt like he, coming out of the draft, just maybe would have done a little bit more for this Raiders team. But yeah, Jeanty to the Raiders here. I think it's I do actually think it's a really good fit. And then with pick number 7 here, he has the New York Jets going with Armand Membou, right tackle / guard from Missouri. Now, I think it's a great fit, right? I think, funny enough, this draft or draft scenario here falls in a way where the Jets have their pick between Membou, Warren, McMillan, and Mason Graham. If the Jets come out of the draft with day one of the draft with any one of those 4 guys, I think we're going to be fired up. Or I can't speak for everyone, right? But I think those 4 guys just fill such a need. They're all blue chip players. I envision these guys here for a long, long time. And really, that's why you're picking or that's the hope with having a top 10 pick. So when you're looking at Membou, obviously he's coming off a great combine performance. This is someone who has done so many different things for that Missouri Tigers offense. 6'4", 332, second team All SEC, athleticism, body control, foot speed, end of the season strong. There's a lot of potential there, 20 years old. He kind of unlocks the O-line, right? The Jets lose Morgan Moses and haven't really done anything to kind of move the needle. If you're talking about Olu on one side and Membou on the other, I mean, 10 years from now, they can still be our tackles. Think about that. 10 years from now, we would still have the same tackles that we do if this mock draft plays out. I don't want to, hype a prospect here or anything like that, put crazy expectations, but that's the reality that this pick could potentially unlock for the Jets. So if that's a need for you, you'd probably really like this selection, right? I think if Aaron Glenn, Tanner Engstrand, they really want to run the football, they want to run their offense through the running game, you can argue, okay, selecting a tackle who's produced in the running game is obviously going to help in that regard. He's going to make everyone better. And all of a sudden, you're taking the glaring weak spot of the O-line and erasing it. Where's the weak spot now? If you're a DC, if you're a DC that likes to send pressure from each way, where's the weak link? Only time will tell, right? The regular season isn't here. But with Membou, a lot of potential there. It would be a good selection. So anyway, let me know your thoughts down below. Thanks so much for watching. I appreciate it. Mel Kipers is coming pretty much right after this one. I just have to film it. Anyway, thanks so much. And as always, go Jets.